Hi folks, and welcome to the tutorial. Today we're going to have a quick look at some volumetric lighting in Redshift for Cinema 4D. So let's just jump right in and straightforward have a look at it. So I just prepared some stuff here to speed up things, and I hope I hope you can follow me still. I try to make it try to keep it easy. So I have just a sphere. I'm sorry for my German interface here, but I hope you will get it anyway. So I have a sphere, and I just put my sphere into a null object, Alt G. Put it into a polygon reduction. Just maybe like that. Yeah, bring down the font tag to something like 20. Then I grab a displacer, put the displacer on top of it. Go to the shading of the displacer and load in a noise, just like that. Go into that noise and give it a little animation speed of 0.5, let's say. If you play that back, you have a slight movement. And I think that's just okay for the tutorial. Let's go back to the object. And bring up the height to maybe, no, 200 maybe is too much. Maybe scale up the sphere a bit. Just like so, I don't know. Yeah, it looks okay. Just going to duplicate my sphere here by clicking Alt drag or Control drag, like so. Go to my duplicate and just increase it slightly. 1.2 maybe is good, like so. Now I put my object into an atom array, like so, and this is what I used in my example. And now we have something that could be used with some volumetric lighting. But let's just fine-tune the atom array a bit. Bring down the cylinder radius and the sphere radius, like maybe so, maybe bigger, why not? And increase the segments to 16, maybe it's just looking smoother by that. And now if we play that back, we have this object here. Right, fine. So the next thing that I did was I just added a Redshift dome light. I will switch it on here. Of course I have a camera, and then I applied a dome light. And in my dome light I loaded in an HDRI for my DOSH chrome effects. A number of samples is 1024. And just disabled the background. Actually, that was that. And to see what's going on here, I'm just going to open up my IPR. Oh, it's a bit big. I'm just going to make it smaller. A bit smaller. Maybe like so. So this is what we have now. And to make some light rays or some volumetric lighting, all you have to do is go to Redshift and apply a Redshift environment object, which I already did. It's just turned off, and that's because to make something visible in your environment, you have to tell the lights to be visible in your environment, and to do that you have to go to the volume tab of your light. And in my situation it's just a couple of spotlights, and just play around with the contribution scale. And my scene here is just like that. I have this 3 spotlights is just sitting behind my object, facing towards the camera, or just slightly touching the edges of my object, just like so. Yeah, and they have different intensities. So that one, I think that's the one in the middle, it's just very bright. The other one to the side are just slightly weaker. And if I just go back to my IPR, go back to my camera, if I now turn on my environment, which I've brought in before, and switch it on, I have something like that. And let's have a look at the volume settings here. So you can play around with the settings, and they actually depend on the scale of your scene. In my situation, I have a pretty small scene and there's not much going on. And if I bring up the scattering to maybe 0.1, sorry, like that, it's very bright and it's way too bright, and that's because my scene is pretty small, so I have to use a lower number. That's still too bright for I feel that's still too bright. Let's add another. Oh, like that. That's looking much better now. Maybe like so. And the attenuation, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, is well, I think it's something like the density of the volume. So if you use a lower number, then there's more light coming through. If you use a higher number, it's getting darker. And with the phase, I think it's like if you play around with the settings here, and you can see the volume is getting also darker or more intense, so to say. So it's just like you're pushing the fog around, you know, like bringing it more to the front or more to the back. So, and you can tint the fog, which I did here. It's green, but you can of course use any other color, just like that. And to bring in those details into the light rays, you go to your light, yes, like my spotlights here, and you just have to load in an image into your image slot here, and I used just a mixed noise texture which I've created on my own, and that will create those light rays. If I just let me switch off that light here. So this is what it looks like. If I just delete that picture from my slot, sorry, if I just delete that, then you have just a straight bright light. And with that image in it, you will have more detail in it. That's pretty easy, and you don't have to mess around with some objects you have to place it in front or stuff like that. You just have to can load in an image or an image sequence, of course. It could be an animation, or it could be even colorized images, or a photo if you want to. So let's bring back the object, and you have to use a dome light just to give more light to the front of the object. If you don't use a dome light for the surrounding light, then it's just pitch black. And but you have to make sure that the dome light is not contributing to the volume. If you do it, it would just get over bright, you know. This is nothing that you really want, I think. And so let's have a look at the material that I used in my scene. So for the atom array, it was just a basic Redshift LED material, which you can create on your own from the presets. That's what I used here. So, and the material for the object in the middle was just a bit more advanced, so to say. So let's bring that on. Sorry, bring that, just put it onto the polygon reduction. So let's have a look at the translucent material that I used here in my scene. When I open up the material editor, first thing that I used was just a basic plastic preset actually. And let's have a look at the shader graph too. So in the shader graph I applied a noise, just a basic Redshift turbulence noise, connected it to a bump map, applied that bump map into the overall bump input of my material, and also connected it to the reflection roughness. And that is just the output for my material here. The interesting part is the section down below here. You can use refraction, which is something like, you know, transparency actually, and just brought that down a bit. It's not 100% transparent. Also colorized it a little bit, and then I used the subsurface transmittance attenuation. I hope it's right, I don't know. I just made it green, and then I played around with the absorption scale and the scatter scale. And if you bring that up, the I hope, okay, it's not reacting in real time, but now you can see it's getting darker if you bring that up. If you bring that down again. If you bring that down again, you can see that the light is coming through, and the thicker the object gets, the less light is coming through, and it's just looking very natural. If you bring up the scatter, so the light will get more diffused. I think it's diffused, I'm not sure, but you can see what it's doing. The refraction is just a bit rougher. So in the face, no, it's very slow. You can play around the face too. It doesn't have such a huge effect on it in this situation here, but that's all I did actually. But for me, it's very looking very naturally. I don't know how if you can do that without Redshift in cinema, actually, like this, because it's looking like real glass or crystal material, especially if you combine it with some bump mapping. And let's just have a quick look at my render settings to make it complete here. If I open up my render settings, what I did in Redshift, most of the times I'm using a preset that I built on my own, and it's just looking like that. I'm using the sampling overrides, which are all set to 1024, just to start with. Yeah, and then I used a minimum samples of 128 and the maximum samples of 512. And if I feel like I have to tweak it, then I just play around with that settings first and try to adjust those afterwards. And most of the times this basic setting is working pretty well. You have very decent render time and very good noise-free results. Actually, Redshift is always pretty good at noises. I think I just can compare it to Cycles 4D, and Cycles 4D is pretty noisy sometimes. Okay. In my integration, I just switch off the default light. I never use default light. I always use the automatic memory management. I feel like this is speeding up your rendering well as well. In my system, I use a bucket size of 256, which I find speeded up things quite a bit. When it comes to GI rendering, I always use the brute force method for primary and secondary engine. I also use a number of rays of 1024, and number of GI bounces of 3 is, I think it's a good point to start. Yeah, and actually that's it, folks. I hope it was useful, and thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.